This month on 219 West, high noon for health care. The president's insurance mandate goes before the Supreme Court. And tofu on the training table.
People here vegan, they're waiting to see somebody who's skinny or sleepy looking or not muscular.
Plus, Greek migration. As the economy crumbles back home, some Greeks try to make a fresh start in New York. Welcome to 219 West. I'm Vincent Balistreri.
And I'm Sarah Pizon. We'll have those stories and the vanishing forest, an African woodland, and the product it yields at risk. But first, President Obama's healthcare reform faces a constitutional challenge in the Supreme Court. 26 states are asking the High Court to strike down key aspects of the law. But what would this mean for benefits already in place and for those yet to come? Kizzy Cox reports.
Before the ink dried on President Obama's signature 2 years ago, trouble was already brewing for the Affordable Care Act. One of the most controversial parts of the law is the mandate requiring everyone to buy health insurance or pay a penalty. Opponents say it's an assault on freedom.
I don't like mandates. I agree with the concept of health care. I'm opposed to mandating things like that.
Later this month, the Supreme Court will hear arguments brought by 26 states. The suit argues that the mandate ordering people to buy insurance is unconstitutional, but supporters believe the mandate is the only way to cover the cost of universal health care.
So with health care reform, we can stop dramatic increases in costs. We can get people covered. We can get doctors paid. We can transform the American health care system, and as a result, the American economy.
Those health care costs have been skyrocketing. The cost of family coverage has more than doubled since 2001 to $15,000 per year, with a huge 9% jump over 2010. That's priced many people right out of coverage.
If you're somebody that works for a group that does not offer health insurance, or you're an independent contractor and have to pay for it yourself, it's outrageously expensive if you can even get it at all.
While costs are a concern, some just don't understand what's in the law for them. In fact, when New Yorkers are asked what they know about Obama's health care plan, the reaction is similar.
Nothing, to be honest.
I don't know much, to tell you the truth. I don't really follow the politics.
But politics is playing an outsized role in the health care reform debate this election year. President Obama continues to tout the benefits of the law, while people involved in health care, like Sheffrin, try to clarify what's in it.
It gives access to coverage for the sick. If you have a pre-existing condition, a health insurance plan can no longer deny you coverage. Young adults up to age 26 will be able to stay on their parents' health care coverage.
There are also benefits for older Americans.
Early retirees, particularly those in their 50s or early 60s who lost their jobs and don't yet qualify for Medicare, will have access to coverage.
Good news for some, but others think the law doesn't go nearly far enough.
It doesn't give every human being in this country health coverage. We shouldn't have to take money out of our pockets twice. I mean, we've already paid taxes.
The Supreme Court is expected to rule in June. Now, here to help us sort out the issues and the stakes is Dr. Stephanie Woolhandler, professor at Hunter College's School of Public Health. Her specialty is financing national health systems. Welcome, Dr. Woolhandler.
Thanks, my pleasure.
So, what's at stake here is really the mandate. But do you really need a mandate for health care reform?
Well, the best part about the Obama health reform was the Medicaid expansion, that they're going to add 15 million people to the rolls of Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is a very bad type of insurance, but it's a whole lot better than having no insurance. Unfortunately, with or without the mandate, the Obama reform is going to leave about 23 million Americans completely uninsured when it's fully implemented. So what's pretty clear is the Obama reform is not a solution to healthcare problems in the United States, whether or not the mandate is upheld by the Supreme Court.
Well, we do have the healthcare reform that we have now. So what happens if the mandate actually falls? All we're left with is the Medicaid expansion?
All we're left with is a Medicaid expansion, and to be honest, we're probably left with the best and most important piece of the Obama reform legislation. Of course, it's possible that the Supreme Court will pull down the entire health care reform, but I don't think the rise or fall of the mandate, the maintenance or the fall of the mandate, is a terribly important issue in terms of what happens on the ground with patients.
So the Obama administration has actually said if the mandate falls, the whole bill falls, the whole act. So what do you think that means for reform in the future?
Well, that may be true, it may not. The mandate, what the mandate is about is the government telling you as a private party that you have to hand over your money to another private party. And in this case, they're saying that Americans have to hand over about $400 billion in taxes or private funds to the private health insurance industry. Now, the private health insurance industry is at the root of the problems in U.S. healthcare. The private health insurance industry drives the high costs of health care, and it's responsible for the lack of access for the problems we're having. So turning over $400 billion to the private insurance industry is not a very good idea either.
Okay. So really, I mean, there's a lot of talks about deficits. We're on the topic of money. Can we afford the Affordable Care Act?
Well, we certainly can afford universal health care. Okay. Universal health care under a single-payer system like they have in Canada and several Western European nations, you're able to cover everyone at lower costs than what we're paying now.
How come we can't do that here? How?
Well, we have the powerful private health insurance and drug industries who stand in the way, because controlling healthcare costs actually is about controlling their profit making, and they've used their political power to block passage of the kind of single payer program that would cover everyone.
Okay, so really you're saying that kind of the drug industry shaped what we ultimately wound up with healthcare reform?
The insurance industry and drug industry both. The insurance industry spent hundreds of billions of dollars in donations to Democratic candidates and hundreds of billions in donations to Republican candidates. They mounted major ad campaigns both supporting the Obama legislation and attacking it from the right. The drug industry, to many people's surprise, threw its political donations behind supporting the Obama legislation. So part of why the bill is bad has everything to do with the influence of the insurance and drug industries.
Okay, Dr. Will-Handler, unfortunately we've run out of time, but thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
When we come back, health benefits of a different kind. A woman balances bodybuilding on a vegan diet. You have to eat meat to gain muscle, right? Think again. Sarah Kazadi has the story of one Brooklyn woman who has devoted her life to being a lean, green machine.
Competitor number 14 from Brooklyn, New York, Jahina Malik.
Jahina Malik is 123 pounds of pure muscle. Most of the time, you can find her in the gym chiseling her physique. But it isn't just for show. At 19, she saw a bodybuilding contest on TV. She's been competing professionally ever since.
I hear a lot of people asking, why do I do it, or why do I put myself through it? It's the high I get on stage when I'm flexing and when I'm entertaining the crowd.
Malik's 14th competition is at the end of March. She spent the 3 months before the show training and focusing on her diet. And while most of her opponents bulk up on beef, she will eat tofu. The soybean product counts for almost 90% of Malik's strictly vegan diet. The 32-year-old was born to vegan parents and has been vegan her entire life.
People hear vegan, they're waiting to see somebody who's skinny or simply looking or not muscular. So I blow people's minds away when they see me and knowing I'm a vegan and I'm bodybuilding and I have this much, and I was able to put muscle on like this.
While training, Malik eats 6 meals a day from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. As a vegan, she doesn't eat meat, dairy, or anything else that comes from animals. But a vegan diet alone isn't enough for her to physically match up to her competition. Most bodybuilders chow down on red meat, poultry, and eggs. Malik's food doesn't have the same amount of proteins and nutrients. That's where the laundry list of supplements comes in.
BCAAs, the silica, colloidal silver, vitamin C, B12, B complex, calcium, magnesium, zinc, vitamin E.
All the supplements may help level the playing field, but a vegan diet still poses a challenge for athletes who need all the energy they can get.
Restricting any foods, it can make it harder to meet your energy needs, and if you're a bodybuilder, if you're an athlete, your needs are higher. So restricting any kind of food certainly makes that more difficult.
Brooke Paul has spent years tailoring nutrition and training regimens for athletes. Though it may be tough, she says they can maintain a vegan diet with the right help.
If you're going to be a vegan athlete, you probably should be doing with some sort of supervision, or at least, meet with an expert, meet with a dietitian, so that you're sure to cover your bases in terms of your nutrients.
See right here?
Malik has yet to find a doctor who specializes in vegans and bodybuilding. It's one of the reasons why she puts her nutrition in her own hands.
A lot of times when I go to doctors or tell me anything about what I'm doing for bodybuilding, they think it's not healthy or safe. I don't want to hear that, so basically I do it on my own.
Though Jahina Malik may be one of the very few professional athletes who've been vegan since birth, she's definitely not the only vegan athlete out there. In different sports, athletes past and present have picked a vegan diet. Some of the more famous ones are Olympic track star Carl Lewis, Tennis Hall of Famer Martina Navratilova, and MMA fighter Jake Shields. Amira Lamb, one of Malik's good friends, was on that list too. But after 10 years as a vegan, the exercise instructor and personal trainer changed her diet.
My health was deteriorating, and my skin, I had a lot of acne. My energy levels were waning. In order to work, I needed to rely on stimulants. So, like coffee, like a lot of coffee.
Lamb spoke with various doctors before leaving veganism. After learning more about the diet's possible dangers, she founded Holistic Hottie, a nutrition company which uses whole foods and exercise to build healthy bodies.
There's no people historically that actually survived that were vegan. Everyone has always been some type of carnivore or omnivore. Even if they were eating insects or eating dairy, veganism isn't natural, in my opinion.
Though the opinions on veganism vary, one thing is for sure, this diet will cost you.
All my money goes to food, all my money goes to supplements. You would think vegan food will be cheaper because it's not crap in it, but it's that much more expensive. My pockets are normally empty.
She spends most of her money at this health food store in Manhattan. She's been visiting for over a decade.
This picture's been up here for about, 8 years now?
We put it because we know that she have taken the other route. She's a vegan and she's bodybuilding and she looks good and she always fit. So as a loyal customer and a friend, we decided to put her there and, to support her.
Though some people admire what she does, Malik is well aware of the stereotypes that come with being a female bodybuilder.
They look like a man, let alone if they just have muscles, or guys think I'm scary. Guys think I could bench press them.
Her muscles often draw stares, and people assume she takes steroids. Many bodybuilders openly use the muscle enhancers, which are not banned in the sport.
Yeah, the majority are on it, but that's the choice. You ain't gonna find old natural Mr. Miss Olympia. That's how it is. I'm on natural, never use steroids, but of course the thought always goes in my mind. Yeah, if I were to, I would be looking like a beast.
The goal is to look like a winner on March 31st. The show is quickly approaching, and they'll put all of her training to the test. Sarah Kazadi for 219 West.
After the break, crisis on 2 continents. Trees disappear in Mozambique. Austerity and lack of jobs forcing many young Greeks to come to New York. "40 years ago, a wave of Greeks fled their country, and many of them wound up in New York. Another migration is unfolding today. Back then, the crisis was political. Now, it's economic. Melissa Noel has the story.
21-year-old Amalia Contesi decided not to return home to Greece after completing her undergraduate studies in London. Instead, Contesi came to New York last September and began graduate studies at Columbia University. She is one in a growing number of young Greeks who are leaving home due to the economic crisis that has struck their country.
I think it's really hard. I mean, most of my friends are still in university, but even for them it's very frustrating because they're graduating now and they're very uncertain as to what to do. Most of them never wanted to leave Greece, but now they're considering graduate studies abroad and looking for a job abroad.
Greece's unemployment rate has soared to 21% since the crisis began. As a result, young Greeks like Contesi have little to no hope in finding work in their home country. Instead, they are forced to try their luck in other countries like the United States, Australia, and England. Stathis Gogoris, a professor at Columbia University, is the president of the Modern Greek Studies Association. Gogoris says that there's no doubt that young Greeks between the ages of 18 and 24 are affected the most by the crisis.
This is a migration that's might even not even call itself a migration. It's more the desire to leave the country because it's impossible to continue to live there.
Amalia Contesi is currently working on a project about Greeks who are returning to the United States. She found that not only are these individuals seeking employment, they are also building new lives here.
If you go to the communities in Astoria and even in Manhattan, you'll hear a lot of people who weren't here a year ago. They just returned because things in Greece were too hard and they had the family they needed to help. And there is this duty, I need to help my family, I need to do something for those people, so I'll come back here and I'll do my best.
For some older Greeks, this new migration is reminiscent of their experiences in the 1960s.
After graduate school, 18 years old kid, I went to the ship, Major Marine, cargo ships, and I was making $96 a month. So I came to New York City and I jumped the ship. So I stay and then I find a job. I find a job working as a painter, working outside on the scaffolds, making $100 a week.
Theodore Manis came to the U.S. 42 years ago. He is the founder of Olympiacos Fan Club, a soccer club in Astoria. He says the neighborhood has seen an influx of young Greeks.
We do see a lot of kids coming from Greece here, but the opportunities, they're not the same. But the good thing about is they're educated. They're more educated than what we have when we came here. And they're educated, and hopefully with the education they will be able to find the jobs and to survive.
Greek parents are even moving younger children to the U.S. to help them prepare for the future. St. Demetrios, a Greek-American school in Astoria, receives at least half a dozen calls a day from parents. The school will need more teachers and computers to accommodate new students by the start of the next school year. But with the U.S. struggling with its own jobless numbers, Gogoris says that education may not provide the same jobs that it would in a more ideal economy.
I think it's unlikely that this youth can find work in what they're skilled at. That is very traumatic, and it's also it's sort of unacceptable because these people have spent already a good part of their life and their family's resources to learn certain skills which they cannot use. But they also cannot use them in Greece. This is why they're leaving.
I don't think it will get better before 10 or 15 years. And I only want to go back on my own terms. And I think that's the feeling of most people who are away right now. We've worked a lot and we keep working, and we don't want to just throw all this away.
I'm joined in studio by Dodi Siantar, an adjunct professor at the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism. She's written about the Greek debt crisis for Time magazine and Fortune.com. Dodi, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So let's start with the recent austerity measures that were passed. So in order for Greece to secure a second bailout, they had to further impose pension cuts and other spending cuts. How do you think that will affect Greeks now?
Well, they're not going to be happy about it. They've already been through 2 years of really tightening their belts. A lot of people have experienced cuts in salaries. Pensions have been cut already. This is a second wave of them. And they've been hit by a lot of tax bills. I don't know how much more the public's going to be able to endure and get through it, frankly. I think it's really almost being pushed to the edge.
And what group do you think has been most affected by it?
It's been pretty much across the board. I mean, pensioners for sure, because they get their monthly check has been cut. I don't know what the percentage was. Young people are being battered. 1 in 2 young people between the ages of 18 and 24 are out of work. 1 in 2. That's pretty huge number. Then you have people who are even in the public sector has been cutting back and freezing, or is going to begin that. Then you have even people in the private sector who've had job cuts or pay cuts, like of as much as 40–50%. And in addition to that, even there's some people in the private sector that haven't been paid for months. So you add all that together, and then getting on top of those, scrunching your paycheck, you're getting tax bills that you didn't get before. And that's not much left over.
Well, Greece currently has an unemployment rate that's about 21%. How do you think the bailout will affect that?
I don't think the bailout's going to impact the unemployment rate directly at all. Most of that money from the bailout is, of course, to keep the state functioning, but a lot of it goes to just settling debt payments. And I don't think the Greek public will see much benefit of that, at least not immediately.
So there have been a lot of people who have been leaving Greece in significant numbers. What do you think that means for Greek Americans and Greeks in different countries? Do you think that Greeks will continue to leave, and what kind of impact will that have on the countries that they go to?
Well, in terms of the impact on Greece, I do think several will keep going, because especially young people, they've got nowhere to turn. I think you have a lot of people who might have been living overseas at one point and went back to Greece during the boom years that are saying, I'm pulling the plug, I'm going back because there's no future here. How much will that continue? It sort of just depends on how things are going to turn in Greece itself. How will it impact countries here? I think the Greek communities here will embrace them. I don't think that's an issue. And we will probably see more activities among Greek Americans, at least, to figure out ways to help back home.
And what are some things that Greek Americans are doing here to help those back home?
The Greek Hellenic Cultural Center in Astoria held a concert to benefit the cultural center, but the vibe was, we've got to do something, and you could feel it, and the tickets sold out. In addition to that, you've got people in Greece changing their tune a little bit. Suddenly you've got a lot of people saying, we're not going to solve this by throwing Molotovs and burning buildings. There's got to be something better.
So the attitude might be changing.
Yeah, I'm hoping. There's just a germ of it right now, but I think it's beginning.
This second bailout is worth about 130 billion euros, which is equivalent to about $174 billion. Do you think that'll be enough money since the first one wasn't enough?
Well, I think that goes to basic economics, because what's happened in Greece is sort of like the equivalent of someone who's got a really high credit card bill, and suddenly you get your pay cut, and you're still trying to pay off that bill. Yeah. It's really difficult. It's the equivalent of saying, I'm going to go take out another credit card and charge that one up so I can pay off my previous one. What happens? You end up with 2 big debts.
I think that's an interesting way to explain it, and an easier way for people to kind of understand what is going on. Dodi Siantar, thank you so much for joining us and helping us to understand this very complex issue.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Mozambique's Miombo Woodland is home to more than 15 species of precious trees. They're the source of many medicines and skincare products we use every day.
But the forest is under threat. Slash and burn agriculture, charcoal production, and logging could destroy the Miombo in as little as 2 years. Megan Eisen reports on the efforts to save the woodland without crippling the local economy.
Deforestation has become more and more of a severe problem in Mozambique. Timber companies are extracting old-growth tropical hardwoods at an alarming rate.
The Miombo Woodland is the single largest contiguous tropical woodland system in the world. The diversity in it is tremendously valuable. You can't play a clarinet that didn't come from here. You can't get a really good quality skin oil, if you want a natural one, that didn't come from here. Their foods, their medicines, there are all sorts of things that have their genetic origin in this woodland. And if we lose that, well then it's gone.
There are a lot of potential ramifications with the levels of deforestation that are currently happening. One of the most urgent ones is food security.
In Mozambique, the government says a 30% increase in the price of bread won't be reversed. This comes a second day of riots, which have now claimed at least 7 lives. Another 288 people have been injured in the demonstrations against the rising cost of living. Water and fuel prices have also gone up.
When you have most of the population as sustenance farmers, ones that are only producing for their own households, barely managing to do that now, the population is going to become more fragile as the generations go on.
Mozambique Forest Centre is a collection of like-minded people to get everybody included in the conservation of Miombo woodland and forest. The more value we're able to create in different ways for the resources that come out of the forest, and resources include both the timber and the people, the more chance you've got of actually looking after and keeping that very diverse woodland.
So it does 3 months in the sun. What the Mozambique Forest Centre began 15 years ago, focusing specifically on timber, we have taken a step further, bringing in oil seeds, local oil seeds and fruits, the ingredients that we now are using in the production of very high quality natural skincare products. Some of the artisans who are making the wooden containers for our products, they make upwards of 10, 12,000 mets a month, which is higher than any school teacher, which is probably similar to the salary that a district administrator would be getting. There's no one else in their communities, in their rural communities, making that type of income.
I'm feeling security because you see here we are feeling we found in everything. We find the water, we found the money, we found the food, we found the clothes, we found in everything. The good life. That's why early morning before sunrise we still is here. We want this project to go up until time our children come working here. Their children come working here. That is our prayer, no? Different idea, different thinking, you know, that's the problem.
And that's it for this month's edition of 219 West. I'm Sarah Pizan.
And I'm Vincent Balistreri. We'll be back next month with more stories from the 5 boroughs and beyond. Thanks for watching.